Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to a special video in which I'm going to be giving you my predictions for episode 54 of Dragon Ball Super, and I usually do this in my reviews. However, I did a special review with Josh from Dragon Ball Nation, which you can check out in the annotation and the description down below for episode 53. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like might need to be talked about in regards to my predictions, and I have an interesting theory which I think might possibly be the case in Dragon Ball Super, and they might be kind of throwing us for a loop. So without further ado, let's get right into my predictions and see where this show is going in the future. Now, as we know, in the most recent episode of Dragon Ball Super was more about finding out Black's true identity and who this Black Goku character, or Goku Black, truly is, which saw Goku, Beerus, and Whis go to the Kaioshin realm of Universe 10 to investigate the apprentice Kaioshin Zamasu, who they believe had a very similar key to Black and may very well have been him as well. And in episode 53, they did develop Zamasu's character a little bit, and we did learn a little bit about his justifications and motivations for what he believes in. Essentially, we see from Zamasu that he seems to believe that mortals are dangerous and that mortals continue to go through this strife of wars, conflict, and all these negativities among them. And as a result of this, he questions whether or not they're even worth protecting and raising, as his master Gowasu says, because that is the role of the Kai and the Kaioshin. And according to Gowasu again, only the gods of destruction are permitted to interfere in the creation because they work in a way with the gods of creation to maintain balance in the different universes, as was stated by King Kai in Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. And through the entire episode, it seems that Gowasu, the master of Zamasu, who is training him as his apprentice Kaioshin in order for him to eventually become the next Kaioshin, was testing him and seeming to try and wrangle him in to make it so that his pure-heartedness stays intact. After all, earlier in the episode, Zamasu was making tea for Gowasu, and Gowasu stated that only someone truly pure of heart could make tea so well, which is completely without imperfections. However, when Zamasu started to talk about his concerns about the mortals, spirals and darkness started to appear within the tea, which seems to be kind of foreshadowing exactly what is going on in this kind of internal struggle within Zamasu. And after Goku and he sparred, Zamasu seemed like he was ready to use some sort of technique or hidden power, which Gowasu immediately told him to stop. And of course, Goku, Beerus, and Whis all said that Zamasu's ki felt similar to Black's. However, Goku said that he thought Zamasu seemed like a nice guy, and the ki wasn't exactly the same as Black's, simply similar. However, once again at the end of the episode, when Zamasu was making tea for Gowasu, and he was thinking about Goku, and thinking about how the mortals can truly be dangerous, and it seemed like he was justifying his own kind of prejudices against them, those dark spirals started to appear in the tea once again. So essentially, the episode seemed to point in the direction that Zamasu is in fact Black. After all, he has a very similar ki, he seems to not like mortals, and of course it seems like now he has some sort of vendetta against Goku, and as we know, Black takes on the form of Goku and even says that he wanted to fight Goku in that form. But the question remains, how does Zamasu end up turning into Black? After all, Black and Zamasu seem to be two separate beings at this point in time, because Black has a different ki from Zamasu, and they only seem to be similar, and Zamasu had seemingly not even met Goku before. But that's where the idea and the concept of these time rings come in that the Kaioshin have in their possession. After all, Black had a time ring, and we saw in the box that Gowasu and Zamasu had brought out that all of the time rings are still intact. So it's entirely possible that after his encounter with Goku, Zamasu will take control of that time ring, the silver one that we saw, and start utilizing it for his own plans, which eventually I suppose will lead him to Trunks' future. However, it does kind of beg the question of why did he end up in Trunks' future rather than simply going to Universe 7 right now and attacking everyone there. The fact that Black even ends up in the history of Trunks timeline is kind of strange to begin with, because what would have motivated him to even go to that timeline to begin with? I mean, perhaps it's possible that when when he uses the time ring, he intends to go to a point in which Goku is no longer alive so that he can wipe out the Earthlings, because he sees that Goku is a threat. So it would make sense that he'd want to try and get things out of the way where he cannot really be stopped by anyone. However, if it is in fact Zamasu, that again raises the question, how does he transform into this form of Goku to begin with? And also, why would he have taken on that form in the first place? Furthermore, another question is raised, and that is, why is his ki different when he fought Goku as opposed to when he's fighting him as Black? And what exactly did he undergo in order for this to come about? Now, a lot of people often bring up the fact of the earring, that Goku Black has a Patara earring on one of his ears, and then we think of maybe what was going on with Zamasu and Gowasu in the first place. After all, Zamasu seems like there is that struggle between, the pure side in which he was making the tea with, and of course the negative darkness which seems to possibly be filling him whenever he is talking about his issues with the mortals. So perhaps what we're going to see is something similar to what happened with Kami, because Kami originally, when he tried to become the god or guardian of the earth, was unable to do so because a god or guardian has to be pure of heart, and thus he purged the evil from his heart, which ended up becoming Piccolo Daimao, or King Piccolo, the evil one that ended up going throughout the earth and exterminating the majority of mankind until eventually he was defeated by Mutaito. So it's entirely possible that again what we're going to see is what we saw with King Piccolo and with Kami, in which Gowasu might be urging Zamasu to purge that evil from his heart, which will end up becoming Black, and perhaps it'll be some sort of split, and that's why Black will have one earring as opposed to two, and both of them will keep one individual earring. Although there is another possibility that many people may have not considered yet, and that is that perhaps Zamasu is not Black, but rather his master Gowasu is Black instead. Now, going back to those earrings once again, if we look at the color of the earring that Black has on his ear, and then we look at the color of the earrings that Zamasu has on his ears, we see that there's actually an inconsistency here, as the color of earrings that Zamasu has are not the same color of Black's, but rather the color of earring that Black has happens to match up with the same color of earrings that Gowasu, Zamasu's master, happens to have on his ears. On top of this, even though the episode spent a lot of time focusing on the fact that Zamasu was shocked at the power of Goku, Gowasu seemed to be equally shocked. Gowasu is also the one who urged Zamasu to fight Goku so that he could better learn to understand mortals, but it makes me wonder why he would try and make him understand mortals through a fight, even though this happens to be Dragon Ball. And additionally, considering that Zamasu is Gowasu's pupil, it could make sense that he has a similar ki to Black and not still be Black, because the fact that Gowasu himself might have that ki and might be training Zamasu to do exactly what he wants him to do, rather than the typical Kaioshin training. Although, once again, we don't really have enough evidence to say that Gowasu would be Black either, and we don't know exactly what would send him down that path in order to become evil in the first place, whether or not it was Goku coming to their universe and actually fighting with Zamasu that maybe changed his mind about the mortals, or whether perhaps he was already embarking on that quest beforehand, and Goku, Beerus, and Whis just happened to stumble upon it because Trunks went to the past and kind of interrupted his plans. And for all we know, the reason why they introduced the tea in this episode is that it could play a very crucial role, because perhaps Zamasu is accidentally embedding it with his evil or darkness of his heart, which slowly seeps into Gowasu and his soul and turns him evil, which results in him becoming Black. In either case, there's certainly a lot of questions that are coming about as a result of this, and I definitely feel like we're going to find out next week or within the coming weeks exactly what would send one of them or both of them down an evil path in the first place. But there is some other big and interesting stuff that's bound to happen next week revolving around future Trunks and Vegeta. As we see in the next episode preview, future Trunks and Vegeta seem to be sparring, and Vegeta turns into a Super Saiyan Blue. And for from what we can see, it appears that Trunks is probably beaten very badly, as it would only make sense for him to be, and seems to be doubting himself or seems to really have given up hope, which is why it appears that Vegeta is grabbing the scruff of his neck, similar to what he did to Kabe in the fight in the Universe 6 tournament, and maybe is going to try and talk some sense into him. I'm hoping that this will lead to Trunks training with Vegeta, becoming powerful himself, and probably defeating Black on his own, as Black really is his villain in this arc, even though it seems like he plans to threaten the overall universe as a whole, or potentially all of the different universes, but ultimately everything is still basically about Trunks, and everything is still basically about the struggle between Trunks and this Goku Black character, so I'm hoping that Trunks will gain the power necessary to allow him to defeat Black, although I feel like there are a number of twists and turns waiting for us in this arc, and everything so far in this arc has really been very mysterious. So I'm guessing in the next episode, or in the next coming episodes, we are probably going to find out either who Black is, or how he becomes Black in the first place, and Trunks will probably end up training with Vegeta considering what we're seeing in the next episode preview, and I'm hoping that it'll come down to him versus Black in the final climactic fight of this arc. But this has been my predictions for episode 54 of Dragon Ball Super and the episodes to come. Let me know your own thoughts down below. What are your predictions? Do you think any of my predictions will actually come to pass? And what are you hoping will actually happen in the future, even if it's not likely to? Let me know down below. And don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
What? What do you want? Why are you still watching the fucking video? Do you expect me to say something? Well, I know what you expect me to say, but I'm not going to say it. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.